Surrounded by some very smart people. I had been in the consumer tech world for over a decade, so I sort of thought I knew what was going on and thought we had a pretty good approach to making this thing a huge success. And then what I learned very quickly was everything I thought I knew, I actually didn't know at all. And I learned a heck of a lot along the way. And what I thought I would do with you is share with you some of the things that I learned by hurt, things that we did absolutely wrong, and then some of the things we learned that ultimately we did pretty right. And I think more so than anything in social media, the one thing that frustrates me the most these days is that everybody focuses on all their wins. And really people aren't sharing as much as you'd like. All of the things they're learning by failing on social media. It's such a bright, shiny object that everybody trumpets what goes well, but we can learn way more from folks that have launched campaigns and movements on Twitter and other types of social media platforms by talking about what didn't work, so that collectively we don't make the same mistake twice. So that the epicenter, other than our site, was a Facebook fan page, and not dissimilar to Misty's experience. We very quickly had 750 fans, we had 550 followers on Twitter, and lots of stuff was happening literally the moment we launched this at 6 o'clock in the morning on World Alzheimer's Day. So we had this incredible amount of momentum that we just figured would carry on. It was going to start in September, it was going to end in January, which was Canadian Alzheimer's Awareness Month. It was the perfect amount of time, and we just thought momentum was going to build and it was all going to be pretty easy. Well, here's what we learned, and this is the ouch of what we learned. Especially on Twitter, you are really only as good as your last minute's buzz. We talk about the real-time web, and the real-time web means people are expecting good things, timely things happening in real time. And if you don't feed them that literally on a minute or hourly basis, you become old news pretty quickly. The second thing that was fascinating, and this was my biggest learning, and definitely the biggest mistake I made around this campaign, was I spent an inordinate amount of time building the site and figuring out every use case and making sure the functionality was bright and shiny and everything you wanted to do, you were going to be able to do. And let me tell you, we spent hundreds of hours and we built this beautiful site. And what we realized at the end of the day was only about 15% of the people that engaged in this movement ever touched our site. And so the old adage of, if you build it, they will come, it just isn't true. It just is not true. Which brings me to my next point, which is the truth is you got to fish where the fish are. And you can't tell people where they got to go. You need to go where they are. And so very quickly we learned that we spent all this time on this beautiful site, but if we were going to be successful, what we really needed to do was engage people on Twitter, through Facebook, on their PC, through mobile, and make sure that we weren't leaving anybody out along the way. We also thought, I also thought, big mistake, that the true network effect would happen quickly on Twitter. And we never really contemplated the importance of getting big celebrity followers to tweet about us, and therefore having the network effect accelerate. We sort of figured this was compelling enough and unique enough that it was just going to happen sort of organically with us and our friends and people that were participating in our various circles, and that through that momentum we would see the hundreds and the thousands and the 10,000s and the millions. What I haven't told you is that the big, hairy, sort of audacious goal that Alex and I, actually Alex was my partner in crime from a breakfast we had when I said, am I crazy, could this work? And it really was 1 million tweets to remember. We were going to get 1 million tweets of people who were suffering from Alzheimer's, and we were going to ask everybody who tweeted to make a $1 donation. And so we sort of figured this whole thing it was so cool and so neat, it would blow up, and we'd get there pretty quickly. It is really tough to get mass and immediate awareness on a real-time platform like Twitter, unless you have, and whether they're celebrities or athletes or other people with huge followings, unless you have them behind you. And if I could roll back the clock and figure out how I allocated my time differently, and it sounds sort of cheesy, but I would do it, I would spend a heck of a lot of time figuring out who are the 3 or 4 big-time celebrities on Twitter who have been touched by this disease. And let me get in touch with their PR reps, let me get them fired up about this, and let them be an advocate for me. And so that as soon as we turn this thing on, we had 5 or 6 million people on Twitter who are being told by somebody that they admire and they follow that this is really cool, that they should participate. The whole thing would have been totally different. The concept of launch is only the beginning. So we worked so hard and tirelessly to launch this thing. I sort of took a deep breath and said, awesome, it's launched, let's see it roll. And then what you quickly realize is that that's just the beginning. The conversations that you start participating in when you launch, they're just the beginning of these long relationships that you hope to build. And the only way those relationships are going to stay time-tested and true is if you continue to provide sort of real-time feedback, real-time conversation, real-time updates, so that people know that they matter to you. And it's amazing, talking about this one-on-one relationship, you can have hundreds of thousands of people tweeting, but if people don't feel like you are building a relationship with them and what matters to them and the fact that their grandfather had Alzheimer's, they're done. They don't want to converse anymore and they go somewhere else. In my head, the mantra around this whole thing was, let's not ask for money. This is all about memorialization. And when we built the site, actually, there was like a donate button that was in like 12 font in the upper right corner. Like, I hid it because I was so embarrassed that maybe we were going to be asking people for money along with this memorial. What we quickly found out through all the communication we were getting, whether it was on Twitter or through our Facebook fan page or emails directly to me, was that I love what you're doing, but I want to help. Other than just memorializing my loved one. I want to donate, but you're not making it very easy for me to donate. Like, how can I do it? Where do I write a check? Can I give you my Visa number? Like, what can I do? And so very quickly we realized, like, I was out to lunch on that, and you don't have to be embarrassed about asking for money, especially after you've given somebody as meaningful an opportunity as the ability to, like in perpetuity, memorialize somebody that obviously they love and they care about. And so what we did is we actually repurposed the page pretty quickly. And I'll just go back quickly to show you. And we made the donate button very, very prominent in the upper right corner. And it sort of helped also that at the same time, we got an anonymous donor who donated $50,000 to match every dollar that we were going to have donated through A Million Tweets to Remember. So donations all of a sudden took on a life of their own, even though I was really wrong at the beginning saying nobody wants to donate, all they want to do is memorialize a loved one. And the last one is like a bit of humble pie for me. So the metrics on the campaign have been really interesting. Most heartening for me is that we've had people from 74 different countries